Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show today. We're going to have a great show for you today. We have the one and only Tim Danahey of the Tim Danahey Show. Tim Danahey, how are you doing today, my friend?
I am doing well, and I have to tell you, it's really an honor to be on a show like yours. This country needs more voices like you.
Look, my friend, I appreciate those kudos. So what have you been doing lately, Tim?
Just working and making a living. My show is on hiatus, but every time I look up at MSNBC or CNN, I look at this and say, hey, that guy was on my show, or that guy was on my show. It's always kind of fun to see all these people who have been on the show, but who knows? So maybe someday I'll get that thing fired up again.
Absolutely. So, look, it's a pleasure having you on the show. I mean, it's interesting. I changed up the show because what I had before was another show planned. And then you sent me this essay that I posted on the Coffee Party Network. Folks, I go to the Facebook page, Coffee Party USA, and I'll join the Coffee Party USA, but also at our website, coffeepartyusa.com, get a chance to see what we're all about in changing the country. But that you had an interesting story that I really wanted to look at before I get into a whole lot of the Trump and racist issues that I'm going to do in the second half of this show. You have an interesting story that I don't know where you got it from that you thought about with regards to Pence. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, Tim?
Well, the essay is entitled Mike Pence, American Hero, and I have no compatible political views with Vice President Pence. But putting together pieces of the Senate, the transcript from the Senate Judiciary Committee's interview with Glenn Stimson of Fusion GPS, taking a look at Lindsey Graham's comments and putting pieces together, and the FBI's acknowledgement that beginning in late summer of 2016 that they had an inside source inside the Trump campaign, which corroborates the items that Christopher Steele gave in his Fusion GPS report. It started putting the things together about what the source might be. Now, with that speculation, as I was putting it together, and also considering the odd recent behavior of people such as Lindsey Graham and Bob Corker, and and we'll even include Paul Ryan on that. But taking a look at the behaviors, my belief is that perhaps Mike Pence would be the person who might have spoken with the FBI, because this all occurred beginning in late July, and I'm wondering if Mike Pence became aware of the campaign's involvement with Russian meddling and the emails and the social media campaigns as part of Trump's campaign. But also, I think that Pence has a good karma, I put in the article, and I said that I do believe his intentions for this country are good, although misguided. I think he would have the knowledge that this needs to be reported to the FBI, whereas the Trumps, the Donald Trump Jr., the Jared Kushners would be more business transactional. And I think Paul Manafort and Michael Flynn would tend to be more corrupt and allow it.
Well, it's interesting. You named the piece. The name of the piece, folks, is Mike Pence, American Hero. Go to our Facebook page, the Politics Done Right with Egberto Willies Facebook page. It is, I think, the third article down right there, but just look for that article or go directly to egbertowillies.com and check out that article. I mean, I really like the way you started it and how you analyze how it might have, how that might have occurred. I tell you what, it was when I read it, I sat down and I said, well, let's see. Could that really be the case? Would someone really do that? Well, you know what? It makes sense. We'll see if you're right or not as far as whether Mike Pence, what I called him based on the way you addressed it is, I said Mike Pence could turn out to be the mole in the White House. Is that right?
I think so. And one has to look at the consequences that if he is the mole, it might explain the Republicans' blind following of Trump, because if in fact a vice presidential candidate who, to the surprise of everyone, became the vice president, if it was found that the vice president reported potentially treasonous activity of the president, one would have to look and think what would be the chain of events that would occur at that point. One would look at perhaps the impeachment of the president, Donald Trump. Then we'd be the vice president, but we cannot necessarily let him assume the reins of power because it would look like a palace coup. And suppose he would have to step aside. It would go down to Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan would be tarnished because of his defense of the president and his comments that the president's exquisite leadership. It would then go down to Secretary of State Tillerson would be the new president, and it would result in the implosion of the Republican Party for all the people such as Devin Nunes and Trey Gowdy who have tried to block and obfuscate the investigations, knowing what would happen. It might also explain the mass resignations going on amongst GOP leadership in the House and Senate. Even candidates, for example, the gentleman who is going to run against Heidi, help me out with the last name up in North Dakota.
Heidi
Heidkamp, yes. And even the primary candidate decided not to run against her. So something is going on, and I think it's something much bigger than a simple investigation of Donald Trump.
I think you're right that there's something going on, and I think it's right that a lot of people are expecting the huge foot to drop, and that is why you notice a whole lot of Republicans are running right now, because this just, in fact, may be the implosion of the Republican Party. Of course, you know, the Democrats know how to pull loss out of wins all the time, so I don't know how effectively they'll be able to monopolize in this, but theoretically speaking, this should be a walkthrough from city councils right up to commissioners' courts, right up to the state houses, right up to the federal houses, meaning the U.S. Congress and U.S. Senate. But you know, Tim, we started the program right away with you talking about your article. I wanted to do that because we've been having some technical difficulties with the computers. We've been crashing on the new software, and it seems that we have some computer issues. So I wanted to get you in just before, in case that is, but I hadn't introduced our show appropriately. So folks that are with us and that continue to be with us, I want you to remember that this is Politics Done Right with Egberto Willies Daily. And what I'd like you to do, first of all, is a big ask. Go to the page on Facebook, Politics Done Right with Egberto Willies, and like that page. We're at 24,500 something. I'd like to get to 30 up to 25,000 like in a few days. I'd like to get to 30,000 as soon as possible, so that as these shows come along and as we bring more personalities, people in the know who are not going to get the exposure that they should on MSNBC, NBC, and these other places, they'll get the exposure here. We'll bring people in like Nina Turner, Senator Nina Turner, and some of the folks from the different parties to be here with you on camera. Likewise, I'd like you to go to Egberto Willies, the Twitter account, the Twitter handle, and follow that Twitter handle, because that is how you're going to be informed. I don't know how many people have read recently that Facebook has changed its or is changing their algorithm now, that publishers, we are publishers of progressive news, meaning EgbertoWillies.com, politicsdoneright.com, theliberalnetwork.com, singlepairhealthcarenow.com. All these websites that we publish will now take back seats to a whole lot of, what they're claiming is that they're making it more consumer friendly, more family friendly. What it really means is those people who will pay to promote their articles are the ones who are going to be placed in people's faces. And of course, what takes priority is the person who has the bigger bucks to put that data out there. So we are going to be dependent on using social media and emails to get our message out to you. So also go to egbertowillies.com and please do sign up for the newsletter. We don't blast you every day. Every few days we send you a mailer with some of the blogs that we get through. In fact, the mailer that's going to go out today, you'll see the story that Tim Danahey wrote, which is quite of interest to us, would kind of open your mind to something. So what I want to tell you is today we complete our first week of Politics Done Right Daily. We hope to have the phones integrated next week. I have most of the parts that should be in this Saturday, and we would be integrating this with the Behringer and all these other pieces. We hope to have the computer locked down as well from the types of crashes that we've been having. In the interim, submit your questions on Facebook Live. Likewise, tweet them to Egberto Willies using #PoliticsDoneRight. As you've been listening to Tim Danahey, he's here with us. Tim Danahey is the host of that great show, the Tim Danahey Show, that is currently on hiatus, but we are sure is gonna be coming back. You know why? Because we need sane voices, both on the left, the liberal side, and the moderate left. That is, I consider Tim the moderate left. I don't know what Tim considers himself. What do you consider yourself, Tim?
I think that would be fair, but please allow me the shades to go further left, and also there are times when I can go pretty hard right too.
That is correct. I mean, we are all made up of a whole lot of different, depending on issues. We don't fall in line particularly. So, folks, the second part of the show, after Tim leaves us, we are going to talk about. There's the special blog of the week that I just wrote, and that we're going to go through. And I want to talk about that we'll talk about that a little bit later in the second half of the show. Please remember what are your thoughts. Always remember, we want to talk to you. Always remember, this is going to be your show. This is where you're going to talk to us. We're going to talk with you. And this information, this news, these opinions, all of this will be propagated throughout the internet, through our spaces. In other words, we are going to be we're going to be providing to you what the mainstream media refuses to do. So again, remember to follow Twitter, Egberto Willies, and also #Politics Done Right, and we'll get to you. We promise to answer all your emails. We promise to answer all your tweets. We promise to answer all your Facebook messages, as we've been doing so far. Anyway, continuing with Tim. Tim, I am going to talk extensively about Trump after you leave in about, I guess, 18 minutes or so. But I want to get your thoughts on the Trump presidency right now. You were a past board member of Coffee Party USA, which we both represent here as well. And you had some thoughts pre-election. I want to know, what are your thoughts now that Trump is our president?
It's a great misfortune for this country, and for a number of reasons, and they're obvious. But I'll tie to the article. Again, with Pence, I believe with Pence, there's a basic respect for the U.S. Constitution. Mm-hmm. I don't sense that same respect from President Trump. The lying becomes excessive. The Washington Post has just counted over 2,000 lies to the public in the first 355 days of office. It's the berating of every institution or every person who does not fit into his narrow worldview, whether it be the Department of Justice, whether it be the FBI, run down, whether it be the media. His influence in calling news fake news has now become a global disease where totalitarian leaders around the world are following that example. And so, and again, I'll put it in the context of Mike Pence. I really dislike Mike Pence. I mean, his positions on everything. But I want to dislike the positions, and rather than dislike the character and the lies of the president. And so there can be honest disagreements, and we can move forward with that. But we cannot move forward with a person who demeans others, who has racist attitudes, who calls neo-Nazis some good people. You can't move forward with that. It doesn't provide a civil foundation upon which we can build. We can build on a lot of foundations, but not one that is just corrupt from the base.
Now, we spoke several times as far as, so where do we go from here? As you know, one of the tenets that we preach is that the first thing that we have to do is really start engaging people, but engaging is easier said than done. What approach would you suggest to those that are, there are a lot of people that throw their hands up in the air and just believe they have no recourse. There's no options that they have. Things are just the way they are. Of course, I'm the forever optimist. I believe in that phrase that I use with my friends, with my family, with my acquaintances, which is positive affirmations. And the reason I constantly use that is because if we can keep that positive mode, that positive modal, the one thing that we know is that we can really start to feel empowered to effect change. What would you suggest to others that they do in order to change what's going on right now? I mean, I'll be more specific, and I'm going to get on a touchy subject right now. There's a whole lot of white angst in this country right now, and I think a lot of that has to do with has something to do with the pathology that we have with Trump and what's going on. What can somebody like yourself do to mitigate those issues?
Well, I think it was Woody Allen who said 99% of success is just showing up.
Right.
And so it's just showing up, whether it be at the ballot box, just show up, vote for it, minimal research. If you have a friend with whom you agree and have talked about issues, ask that person for whom they're voting. And perhaps that would be a guidepost, because there's not much coverage at the local level and working your way up. That would be a start. Vote what you believe, not what your party is. There are good people everywhere. That would be the starting point. Support media like you, because we need these kind of voices. For example, if there was a negative story on a pharmaceutical company, those will not make it to mainstream media, because pharmaceutical companies, thanks to Congress, are major advertisers. We need independent media like you. That would be another way that people can get involved. There's an organization where I live in eastern Pennsylvania. It's called Lehigh Valley for All. It's an organization that's very active, that invites state and local representatives in. They talk about issues. But I'm going to ask them that if Robert Mueller were to be fired by Trump, are there contingency plans to demonstrate in the streets? I have told my employees that if Robert Mueller is fired, or if there's any kind of attack on the elections, whether they suspend him or whatever the reason, that would be an excessive one. But Robert Mueller certainly would be in the realm of possibilities. I said, we are going to shut down the business for a few days, and you will find me in the streets standing there peacefully saying this is not okay. And so just show up is how people can do it. And I intend to do so.
Excellent. Now, I know this is a touchy subject, but I want you to touch on white angst for me. Is it? I really want you to tell me something from your point of view in that respect. I need you to tell me something from that point of view in that respect.
Well, I don't know, if I represent a broad spectrum or a narrow spectrum of white people, but um, my big belief, Egberto, is that we need to work for justice,
Mm-hmm.
and justice has no color. And I see somebody who's a white male in the office going, what's going on? This is not what I believe. This is not what our country believes. And so I'm saying there's got to be a better way. I want things better for everyone, whether it be the people in inner city Baltimore, wherever. There's got to be ways to do this. We're the wealthiest nation on earth. We have the largest military on earth, so we're the most powerful. And yet we don't want to tax ourselves enough to pay for it. We're driving us into debt, which will, you and I will both be paying for this, and our children will too. But as for an angst, Egberto, I'm not answering your question well, and I'll be welcome to follow up the question with me, but it hurts. I want something better for all of us. And I do not look at being a white male as a point of privilege. I look upon it right now in today's society as a point of responsibility. And that's a responsibility to which I wish to rise.
I like how you said a point of responsibility, because that I agree with. It has to be a point of responsibility if we're going to repair a whole lot of damage. I don't want to stay any further on that issue, but where I want to go next is how what institution did we lose? Oh, we lost you for 1 second. Are you still here with me?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I don't know what happened there for a minute. But
stuff happens. I think I've seen a bumper sticker to that effect.
Yes, stuff happens sometimes. Anyhow, Tim, what I want to go at now is because we only have about 8 minutes left with you on air, is what do you think going forward? First of all, what do you think is going to be the outcome of the Trump saga? And when I say saga, I'm not just talking about what you say about, let's say, Pence being mole or whatever, but what do you see out of this, and when does Trump complete his term or not? And has he done enough damage that it's going to take more than the time he's been in office to repair?
I do not believe he will be impeached just due to party politics. What I do believe is essential that we all allow is a graceful exit. He can use health as a purpose. He can use family, whatever excuse he would like to use, but he needs a graceful exit. I think the lever that will force it will be the discovery of money laundering, will be of illicit deals, will be the potential collapse of his questionable empire, and then the consequential loss of prestige and esteem. If he can leave and just say, hey, I have to devote time to my businesses and family, whatever, and we allow him to do that gracefully, I think that we have that chance. If we want to have pitchforks and torches, I do not believe we will necessarily be successful. But I don't think the Republicans in their current state have the, I use a well-respected Spanish word, cojones. I don't think the Republicans have the cojones to stand up to him. I think they have to apply the personal financial levers to get him to resign and make it look as graceful as possible.
It's interesting that I ended the blog of the week that I'm going to go to after you're done here ends on sort of a note like that. It doesn't have it ends on a note sort of a note of that sort, because a lot of people, what they want now is vengeance. They feel that much has been harmed, and now what they want is vengeance. And I tell you one thing, at some point, one side has to stop if we're going to move forward. And what I tell my folks is, I don't mean, if we're really going to make progress, I don't mind being that side that isn't going to be the one seeking vengeance. Vengeance is not always all that it's cooped up to be. So I agree with you wholeheartedly that we should try to, that what we're looking for is a graceful exit. I am concerned, of course, that the person that would replace that person who leaves in a graceful exit is a Mike Pence. I actually believe that Mike Pence is quite a bit more dangerous than Donald Trump with regards to policy, because he actually knows policy.
Yes.
Donald Trump doesn't know anything, but Pence knows policy, and what they want to institute is a conservative and Randian realm that I don't think America is ready for. And I think they've already made their first step towards that with the tax cut scam that just got passed into law. Your thoughts?
Well, I agree with you. If the Republicans were smart, they would be more aggressive with urging Trump to step aside. If Pence were to take office now, he could be potentially in office for 10 years.
Exactly.
One can imagine the steps that they would take in 10 years. It would be horrific. He is not a decent politician.
Yeah, Tim, I think you probably need to explain to the Americans who are listening to the show right now constitutionally what that 10 years mean, because a lot of people think, oh, you can only have 2 terms, 8 years. Explain to them what the Constitution says there, because it is 10 years.
Well, it's Lyndon Baines Johnson in Texas, your home state, is a good example. He fulfilled Kennedy's term for a year, and then he got elected for 4 more years, and he could have run in 1968 for another 4, but he chose not to.
Right.
He made 9 years. The same case applies to Mike Pence. He could fulfill Trump's final 2 years, run for himself, and then run again. It would not be, for me.
It would be a disaster.
It would be, yeah. I wanted to be less cataclysmic, but I think you're more accurate. Yes, it would be. He is not a politically balanced man.
I mean, he knows policy, and that's a scary part about it. He knows policy, and he knows the machination of both the Congress and the Senate, and in doing so, he would be a clear and present danger to the entire country.
And I might elaborate on just a wee bit, Egberto. I mean, he knows bad policy as far as you and I are
exactly.
concerned. And he is, in fact, the people of Indiana did not want, probably would not have reelected him as governor of Indiana. He was that unpopular. Fortunately, we still have elections. Shutting down that special election commission, election fraud commission, you look at that as something good, and you look at something bad. If they had found nothing, they would have no way to impair the 2018 elections. Now it's open to speculation, and I don't know. That's why I have contingency plans to join on the streets if necessary.
All of us must have contingency plans to join on the streets. And what Tim Danahey has just said is very important for us. Look, depending on what's going down, we are going to have to put our bodies on the line. As Tim said, we're going to do it peacefully. We're not going to be throwing firebombs. We're not going to be doing anything like that. But what we're going to be doing is showing up in numbers to show that we won't allow these things to go forward. Tim, give me a quick, you have a 2-minute closing argument or whatever closing argument you want to leave before we go to the next segment.
Let me just say about taking to the streets and being active. And everyone thinks, well, we're a nation of 330 million. There have been studies that have shown that all it takes is 4% of the people to be involved. And so in the United States, it'd be about 12 million people. 4% got Israel to break up their major corporations. 4% resulted in overthrows of totalitarian regimes around the world, such as Argentina. These are peaceful 4% too. If you get violent, it will never work. But a peaceful 4% would scare the bejesus out of Congress. So don't feel that it is that we need 50% of Americans to hit the street. We just need a peaceful 4%. You can take a look at this numbers and the tactics and the strategies in a book called This is an Uprising. It's a study of how to affect change peacefully and identifying the institutions which are vulnerable. So take heart. It doesn't take that much, but it does take you, Egberto. It does take you, the listeners. And it takes me. But we can do it.
Tim Danahey, host of the Tim Danahey Show, in hiatus right now, but he'll be back, and he will be a frequent visitor on Politics Done Right. You know, I've done his show, he's done my show, we've done shows together all over the country, we've traveled together, so it was a pleasure being with you, Tim. Thank you so kindly for spending some time with us. You have a wonderful day, and we'll be back. Folks, if you want to get to Tim, it is tim@danahey.com, and you can see his email address right under his name. Tim, it's a pleasure being with you. You have a wonderful day, my friend.
It's an honor, Egberto. Thank you.
All right. Okay, folks, now we're heading to the portion of the show where we are going to talk about something special. So you know what comes in now. It is, you know what? All right, we're talking about the blog.
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Okay, folks, let me tell you, I know everybody knows what's going on right now with the Donald and what the Donald has said. Everybody knows. The question is, what do we do about it? The question is, do we do anything about it? The question is, are we even surprised about it? The answer is an absolute no. So earlier today, before we changed the show and had Tim Danahey on, I wanted to start thinking about what's the blog of the week gonna be about today? And I actually got upset because after listening to what Trump had to say, the first thing was, look, I have family members who voted for Trump. I have friends who voted for Trump. I had loved ones who voted for Trump. All along we knew who Trump was. They had to have known who Trump was. But something within their psyche allowed them to do so. So to my friends and family who supported Donald Trump, my question to you is, that's the title of the blog, enough yet? Have you got enough yet? Look, I am ashamed to say I have family and friends who voted for Donald Trump. Why am I embarrassed? Shouldn't be me. You would think it should be them. But because they are still family. They are still friends of mine. And I genuinely feel sorry for these people. They're family and friends. And for my friends who are listening, who voted for Trump, this sorry is not a sorry of pity. This is a sorry that says, my God, folks, wake up. My God, folks, you're harming your people. And your people, I mean just about every darn American. Donald Trump supporters who continue to apologize or make excuses for him fall into only two categories. The question is, which one do you reside in now? Because if you're still supporting him, there's only two categories. The first category is merely those who believe in white nationalism and white supremacy. Those people yearn for a time when their white skin was an immediate path to privilege when competing for anything with all those others, those people of color. They do not attempt to hide their correct belief, and it is a correct belief, that the founding fathers created this country for a particular gender and racial hierarchy. Liberalization is a threat to them because it created equity based on merit instead of a backward, immoral, irrational, and non-scientific race-based delineation. The second category is those that are in denial, those that are willfully ignorant. How can anyone of color or any religion or any woman for that matter, or anyone from whether Christian or otherwise, how can they support Donald Trump? Now think about it. And this isn't a negative thing. It is about, for those things that you believe, how does Donald Trump become your representative? The president telegraphed who he was for decades. It was the most unhidden secret. Many Americans, including friends and family, chose to apply some facade of undeserved genuineness. They chose party over morality. They decided their innate sexism was preferable to voting for a woman. Some are going to balk at that. No, it just couldn't have been Hillary because Hillary was so bad. Really? How much worse could she have been than the Donald? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? They disregarded the hurt that would come to many of those they purport to love for their willful ignorance. You chose, many of you chose your willful ignorance, and you don't, I can say this right now while we are here. I won't tell you this in your face. I won't be holding it against you when I see you at the coffee shop, when I see you at the store, when I see you anywhere. I won't be holding this against you, I promise. You should hold it against yourself. I won't mention it per se. I won't attack you per se, because that'll get us nowhere. But by God, you should be attacking yourself. You should be asking yourself, how could I have done this? How could I have done this to the people I love? How could I have done this to the country I love? How could I make believe? How could I convince myself that somehow there was something good about a Donald Trump? Someone who's going to grab women by their pussies. How could I possibly think? How could I think somebody who could articulate that in that manner could be somehow the person I wanted representing me, representing the country elsewhere? What kind of hoops did you have to jump into? Those of you that are Christians, what kind of hoops did you have to jump into to believe that somehow this person had a better moral compass than a Hillary Clinton, than anybody else? How could you think that? What did you tell yourself to think that? Day after day, the embarrassment that is our president speaks. The president's latest comments referring to some non-majority white countries as shitholes and yearning for immigrants from the blue-eyed white blondes from the likes of Norway did not surprise me. It should not have surprised you either. It wasn't something that he had not said before. But will those black people and other people of color make him pay for his latest assault on them and their families? Will those in my family who this guy overtly called, where they're from, shitholes, will they renege on this president? Will they? I don't know. Will their pride stop them? Well, you know, there are times when you got to throw pride out the window. Unfortunately for many, the answer is yet unknown. The president paraded a group of black apologists on stage with him for a disingenuous Martin Luther King special to address the 50th anniversary of the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination. Sadly, many times in the history of the United States, the oppressed and maligned are used for their continued oppression and maligning. I repeat, many times in this country, the oppressed and the maligned are used for their continued oppression and malignment. Remember, a lot of the folks running the fields were those other slaves whipping slaves. It wasn't only the white master whipping the master. Remember the corporations today, your new masters, but this time it's not a master on race, but a master on class, a master on all the others that are not the top 20%. The masters of those, remember that. That is what happens. That is what happens. So, what are we to do? What are we to do? Keep talking to family and friends. Look, folks, I'm a talker. You need to be a talker. You can't give up. Plant seeds. Don't think that when you speak and you're gone, your thoughts are done. they're not. When you speak, and when you speak with a certain level of honesty, authority, and integrity, people have a tendency to listen, even if they're not accepting you right then and there. They're listening. Plant the seeds so that when the time comes, everything else would become fertilizer, water, and sun for that seed to grow. I've seen it happen. I see it happen continuously. So yes, in as much as many of my left counterparts tell me, Egberto, you're wasting your time doing some of these things, I'm like, hell no. Working with humanity is never a waste of time. Trying to change people to go into a positive direction is never a waste of time. So, keep talking to family and friends. You won't get it to all, but you will reach some. You may even convince enough to make the difference in several precincts and districts. You know, that's a magical thing, right? You want to hit precincts, you want to hit districts. That change alone can swing elections. You know, if Hillary Clinton had gone into a few precincts in Michigan, if Hillary Clinton had gone into a few precincts in Pennsylvania, if Hillary Clinton had gone into a few precincts, like in the Haitian precincts in Florida, she would have won. Think about it. Even Trump went into Haitian precincts. He's talking about Haitians coming or living in a shithole, but guess what? He was in the Haitian precinct saying, give me your vote, I will be for you. And of course, he turned on them. But we knew he would. Shouldn't they have known he would? If the news media was out there, if independent media was out there, they would have been able to inform these people that he would tell you anything for your vote, up and beyond, above and beyond what normal politicians do. They would have told him that. So, that could swing elections. Your voice could swing an election. Think about it. You have that power by just talking, by just keeping engaged. You could do it. As such, or rather, the Republican Party has been complicit with Donald Trump. They are complicit with Donald Trump. Donald Trump is going to go down, and so will and should the Republican Party. The question is whether a Democratic Party or a progressive party will be ready to take the reins and run with it, or they will simply become Republican light, a neoliberal disaster. We got to decide that. And you know who decides that? You do. These primaries that are coming up in Texas in March, you decide which candidates are going to be carrying the progressive mantra or the neoliberal mantra. You want the progressive mantra. You're the one who are going to decide. The Republican Party is complicit with Donald Trump. Guess what we're hearing now? Radio silence. The leaders are not talking on any major station other than Fox News. And those that are talking on Fox News are trying to say, well, liberals do the same thing. We can't have it from the leadership that way. But remember, all they want, the leadership of the Republican Party and the Republicans, all they want is President Trump's right hand to sign bills. They just want those bills that are there to pilfer the American people. Pilfer them. Take it away. And why do they want to take it away? I mean, there's no fun in just taking things away for the sake of it, because the people that they intend to enrich are those that are funding them. And it's time for payment. They've been funding them for years. They've taken over Congress. They couldn't get their bills passed. They've taken over the presidency. They couldn't get their bills passed. Now they have it all three. Well, it's more than all three. They have all four branches. You say, Egberto, there's not four branches. There are only three branches. You're right. But I always call it the Congress, you know. But anyhow, the judiciary, he is making an impactful change, which means we will need to have a strong legislature so that whenever a faulty judiciary makes a law unconstitutional, that we can follow the Constitution and force the law through with the necessary legislative steps. This is another subject that I won't go into. That talks into constitutional politics, and we don't need to get there right now. Right now, we're on Trump. So folks, as such, in 2018 must be explosive. When I say 2018 must be explosive, that's exactly what I mean. 2018 must be very explosive. And what I mean by that is 2018 progressives must not just win. Progressives must win in a landslide. And why must they win in a landslide? Because you don't want a 50+1 government wherein some of those supposedly progressive establishment Democrats will be there to fail you, because the same companies that control those strong Republicans that are screwing you are the same companies that control the establishment neoliberal Democrats. Remember that. So don't think it's a panacea to just get rid of the evil portion of the Republican Party that's screwing us all, because they had some help. Remember that. They had some help. So as such, in 2018 must be explosive. Progressives must win from city councils, county commissioners, the state houses, the senates, the big enchilada, the U.S. Senate and the U.S. House, and eventually in 2020, a real progressive president in 2020, but not one named Oprah Winfrey as another United States fad. We need a technocrat that is charismatic, that knows policy, that understands economies, and won't be snowed by those who would tell them that the current capitalist structure that we have in America today is sustainable, because evidence-based, this is no question, evidence-based, mathematically based, the exact things that the type of capitalism, the type of economy that we've instituted in this country, the exact things that's been predicted to happen because of the mathematical formulas that governs it, is exactly happening now. What we need is a complete restructure of the American economy into a free enterprise system. Not a corporatist capitalist system, but a free enterprise system. And we only get that. We only get that when we elect the right people from the bottom all the way up to the top. Don't be fooled by those people who come to you now. Oh, that they're going to do all that is right for you. But anyhow, folks, continuing to end the blog of the week, it will be hard. But forgive those that have put the country in dire straits that we are in now. Forgive them. It makes no sense sticking the knife in and adding salt to the wound. Makes you feel good for a couple of minutes, and then it's all over. Makes them feel bad for their life for a very long time because they know they've screwed up. Look, these people that chose to be willfully ignorant, they know who they are. And they know that they are. You don't have to tell them anymore. What you want to do is bring them into the fold without repercussions. So, don't bother rubbing it in. If we are to repair the decimation that the Republican Party and some corporatist Democrats have rendered on the American populace, our time is better spent uniting and reversing the evil. Again, like I said, it makes you feel good. It'll make you feel great to tell these people, you screwed up, you messed up, you caused the country pain, you caused the death of many people, because that is also on your hand. The blood of many people are on your hands. The death through sickness, the death through policy is on your hands. But you'll have to live with that. I don't have to rub it in any further. I'm just talking to everybody here with the expectation that when they go out there, they don't have to do what I'm doing here. It's over. Just go ahead, continue to talk to folks, continue to bring them in, because if you continue to bring these people in, we will eventually make a change. You see, I preach all the times that we are being played, and that these guys, from starting with the Powell Manifesto, and you always will continue to hear me saying the Powell Manifesto, and you can go to egbertowillies.com and look up the Powell Manifesto. And the reason I'm saying I always use it, and the reason I repeat that, is the way radio is. It's a transient, and people come and they go as they're listening to your show. They listen to a part and then they leave and then they come back. Sometimes they return. So you get a whole lot of people. I mean, right now we have over 3,000 people. You get a actually it's quite a bit more than 3,000 people, but you get people coming and going all the times. So sometimes if it seemed repetitious for those who happen to sit through the entire hour, you know why. Actually, we're at 5.5 thousand people. But anyhow, what's important that you do, what is very important that you do, is that you give people the opportunity to change. If you give them the opportunity to change, you know what? A large percentage will change. Remember the two categories I spoke about in the blog of the week. The first category are the white nationalists, the racists, the ones who just simply think that America should be a white country controlled by white people. And a lot of people think that way. And for those who think that way, well, you know what? Eventually you'll die. And most of the folks that are coming behind you, not all, but most of them, they'll think differently. So as my nephew once told me, he came here to Houston from San Diego one time. Brandon said to me, he said, you know, Tio, a lot of us, he's young. He said, a lot of us don't worry about that anymore. He said, the way we see it all of the time is, you guys are going to die off. I said, okay. I mean, he was quite serious when he said that. You know, he said, you guys are going to die off. Unfortunately, a lot of what's going on right now is a re-indoctrination of the youth, some of the youth. And for those who like to say things like, well, a lot of the Trump problem is racist and has nothing to do with the economy, I beg to differ. This black man begs to differ that some parts of it is race, but do not discount what economic angst can do to affect or bring back the carnality of racial issues. Until people realize that. So I hear all the liberal pundits on TV, and my friend sometimes also I get concerned when Joyanne Reid does it a whole lot, when she just claims solely, well, it's just a racial issue with these people, and let's not spend any time trying to change these people because they can't change. It's not just a racial issue. You create economic angst, and then you can put the racial wedge in to divide. Remember that. When things are going great for everybody, it is harder to put that wedge in because of the stupidity that is racial divides, because of the silliness when one takes into account the reality of humanity. It is simply silly. So folks, we're coming into the end of the show, and I just want to let you all know that this has been our first week of Politics Done Right on a daily basis. So of course, it goes Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays at 3 o'clock. We do it right here in the studio. And on Thursdays at 3 o'clock, we're in the studios at KPFT 90.1 FM in Houston, Texas. On Fridays, we're back here. The goal of this show is going to be to bring in personalities from all over, mostly politics. Every so often, we will do more than politics. Hell, sometimes, who knows, maybe I'll throw in something that has to do with food. I love to eat good food. But the whole goal is to keep us informed and to provide us with a whole lot of narratives that you won't necessarily hear on the mainstream media. Our goal as well is for you to ask you to go ahead and share these programs widely. We need you to share these programs. And why do we need you to share these programs? Because you are going to be the media. What's happening in this country is not, it's by design. Its intent is to keep you dumb. Its intent is to keep you ignorant. Its intent is to keep you knowing just enough to survive what the plutocracy wants you to do. And what we want to do with this type of a show is educate. So please do remember to share these shows. Lastly, and this is one of the most important parts, we need you to contribute to these shows, not only mine, but others. And you have the link underneath there that you can support Politics Done Right, and as well as egbertowillies.com, our news website, as well. And all of that covers politicsdoneright.com, theliberalnetwork.com, singlepairhealthcarenow.com, and of course, politicsdoneright.com. Why? Because if it's not you, who? If it's not you, who does it? One thing on the right is the right is very, very, very good at ensuring they have support, and they don't have to get support from their masses. They get support from the big ones. We get support from the masses. There was a time when we could do most of our support on advertising, which means you browse and, you know, because you're displaying ads, you can, the person who's doing the stories, the person who's writing, all these guys are able to go ahead and get things done. Not anymore. Facebook has changed their algorithm. They have reduced the amount that these folks are trying to provide, that the plutocracy is given for advertising. I wonder why that is occurring. Sometimes you wonder, right? Is it that they want the independent media out of business because they believe that you won't support these shows? That's a good possibility. Starve the ads, and guess what you do? You starve the ads, you starve the ability for those who want to give you alternative news to survive. It's all there for one to see. So anyhow, what we are doing with Politics Done Right is going on dual model. We still try to do our advertising, but we also ask people to go ahead and get their membership at politicsdoneright/support. Guess what though? Whenever you become a member at egbertowillies.com, you actually browse our website without any ads. So check it out when you get a chance. But anyhow, folks, next week we should start taking phone calls. I bought all the equipment that's necessary to bring the phones in. We are going to try to get some of the crashing issues that we've been having with the computer system with the new Wirecast out. And when we're done with that, we'll be taking your calls, and we hope to take a lot of calls because that is how we're going to make the change. It's not going to be a one to many. It's going to be a one to many, a many to one. And when we have folks in here, a many to some. So I hope you enjoyed the show. Keep telling me what you want us to do in the comment section of the comment section of the live broadcast on Facebook, or drop us a line, info@politicsdoneright.com or info@egbertowillies.com. I hope you enjoyed the show. We are going to be closing this baby out right now. Come back on Monday. We will be right here.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES, that is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
1, 2, 3, 4.